All right. Corey, did you want to take it away? I think we're ready to go.
Awesome. I was feeling so bad about not being able to make it to campus today. So I'm so happy to see so many people on Zoom. So this makes it a little bit easier. I'm in Snowmageddon right now. They shook the snow globe where I'm at and having trouble getting out of my driveway. So thank you guys for coming. This is really exciting that we're putting together an all-encompassing advisor training through Brightspace for all advisors, for faculty advisors, for academic success advisors, for EOP, professional, all across the board. What we've done is we've talked with the associate deans, we've put some stuff together based on what we do as professional advisors, and now we need some feedback from you. We want to make sure when we roll this out to all advisors that it does cover everything that you're looking for to help you with your advisement journey, new things that are coming down through NACADA, through professional development, but also new things that are happening here on campus. We do have a new redesign project happening, so there's going to be some outlines of what that looks like. So today, really, we just have 20 minutes to briefly show you what we've already put together in these modules. We have a feedback form that we would really like you to just kind of tell us what else you would like to see in that advising training module. And it's going to be changing as new things come to us, as new things, policies, procedures get passed on. We're going to be using this as a platform to share with all advisors across campus. So we have this broken down into 4 modules in Brightspace. Not everybody has access to it because it is a course that we have to upload you to. So what we're going to do is Andrew's going to take us through 2 modules. David is going to take us through 2 modules, and then we're just going to open it up for some Q&A and some time for some feedback to see what we've missed along the way. So, Andrew, we'll have you get started.
Yeah, let's see if I can share. And I think we should all be able to see the Brightspace shell now. So this is the student view or the user view in this perspective of what you'll see when you come in. As Corey mentioned, the 4 modules. I'll be talking about the first 2 to get us started. The first module is the foundations of academic advising. And you can think of this module as the place to start as if you had no idea even what an advisor is. What are the concepts, the values of advising, and this all comes from NACADA, that is our professional organization. And so if you're unfamiliar with them, you can go through these clickable links here, which will bring you directly to their website, and you can learn more about each of these topics. For some context, David and I are also teaching the SUNY CPD Professional Development Academic Advising Certificate, Course 1, and this is one of the topics that we talk about within that course. So really setting the framework and groundwork for anyone who doesn't know exactly what academic advising is as a discipline. This module will also include understanding different cohorts of students, and this is a non-exhaustive list. We could probably keep going and add more different types of cohorts that we might work with as advisors, but each of these is a clickable page or a link outward or outside of the institution to learn more about working with these different populations from the perspective of academic advising. So again, starting from a base level of very little understanding of what academic advising is to give us some theory and ideas behind it. The second module is going to be more specific to advising at Oswego. So what does the role look like here at our institution? Again, we've got some clickable links and pages here that can go into more detail of these things. That include advising milestones. Some of that is informed by our institutional goals that we have. The types of advisor, which will relate to future changes and things that are coming. The advising roles chart, and this will be a breakdown of these new roles and what the responsibilities are year by year. Some other helpful links like the Advisement Center is coordinating advisement across campus, as well as the college catalog, where all of the academic policies live. So this is the document. Corey, would you like me to click through any of these specifically to talk a little bit about them?
I let's do the overview and then we'll get down to see if we
Sure.
can let's get through all of it first, and then we can go back to key points that people want to see.
And we want you to click through these as well, right? That's kind of the purpose. If we share now, it kind of defeats you going through and evaluating, giving us feedback. So those are the first two modules, right? And so now I'll pass it on to David. Or would you like me to click through David? I don't know if you have the ability to share from your device.
So can you hear me okay still?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, I can go ahead and share my screen as well. We'll just be hopping right back into where we were a second ago. But so in here, I'll actually pause for a brief second and mention that when we're looking at things like Nakata, which Andrew just mentioned, a lot of the things that you might see if you explore through their webpage sometimes can be hidden behind like paywalls. They say want you to become members, but the Nakata community very broadly is actually open access, free thing with plenty of articles, lots of other institutional practices as well. So I would highly encourage, if you want to dive more into some of those concepts and ideas of advising large scale, it can be a wonderful, wonderful resource to take a look at. So definitely take a look through those things. After we talked about the foundations of advising, those starting points, as well as the more specific advising at Oswego, which, where we're kind of moving forward and what those advisor roles look like. We also built into this training module, again, aimed at every advisor, whether you are an academic success advisor, a major, a minor, a faculty advisor. What are some of the tools of the trade? And again, here we see both built-in web pages where you'll have some broad information and a couple of screenshots and images on things such as DegreeWorks, as well as Starfish. And then also links out to some of our institutional resource pages and the expert information if you need to dive deeper or just have a one-stop shop of where do I go to next. So information on the registrar's office links for DegreeWorks, Starfish resources, and then even more broadly, what are the faculty and staff resources where you might find some of those common forms we often use. I just recently discovered myself that a lot of the registrar pages were modified a little bit, and many of our web pages are redesigned to make sure that they are accessible. So I had to refresh myself a little bit here as well. Now, one thing I think is important to know as we're kind of previewing this today, and again, one of the goals of this session is to preview this, but even begin to gather feedback so we can make sure this training best serves everyone on campus. We do have some things we're still working on. So long-term, have a goal to have a kind of primer on some of the My Oswego tools, and we can continue to develop into here other advising technologies or other items that might be helpful that an advisor might want. We'll touch on the feedback process towards the end of the presentation. The last module we currently have built, at least in an initial shell, is what we call our advising skills and student strategies. So less so the hard infrastructure, policies, rules, and procedures, and more so what are some tips and tricks? What are common things that your students might ask you for help and support with, or information on some of our partners that we work with as well, so that when a student is meeting with you, you feel as prepared as possible and you're feeling excited to help them. So this is broken down into two sub-modules. The first one is our career advising module, and this is actually linked out to a resource provided by our friends in Career Services. Gary Morris and his team put together a really, really nice resource on what a four-year plan can look like. So when you're doing career advising, talking about mentorship, getting involved, experiential opportunities, what intentional conversations could you have all the way from your first year to, in theory, the final year for a student. So that's a great resource they put together. And then below that, we have our advisor toolkit. And this was put together or kind of compilated by one of our prior advisors, Sue Whitmer. And we brought this in because this was always previously part of the training process we recommended for new advisors coming in on tips and strategies and common conversations. So things you might refer a student to for time management, note-taking, study strategies, amongst other things. So those are kind of quick tips of information you can then share with them or just to refresh and prime yourself as well. So right now, our four kind of primary modules are those foundations of advising, the advising at Oswego, the technologies, and then advising skills and strategies. Down the road, as we continue to develop this in collaboration with all of you and working with our deans and associate deans, our goal is to continue to expand information. We even have a shell, tentatively set for some of our college-specific advising information, where you might find particular details if you are perhaps in the College of Business and Entrepreneurship or liberal arts, science, and engineering, and so on and so forth there. But not rolling that out quite yet, but those are, as we continue to improve, things we are looking forward to for the future as well. So I think in a nutshell, that's kind of at least look at what we are looking to develop. And we've begun to share this with some of our academic success advisors, our professional advisors, for initial feedback. We wanted to bring this to all of you as well, so we can continue to develop this. And I think I'll turn it back over to Corie now for gathering feedback or other kind of top level comments.
Sure. Do you want to go ahead and unshare your screen, and we'll
Yes, of course.
see if we have any initial thoughts on this? I mean, I think we're heading in a direction. We want to stop before we get too far along to share with the community and kind of figure out, is this where we need to go? Is this what advisors need across the board? And because even though we have the redesign and we're going to be working with professional and faculty advisors, it's very important for everybody across the board to have the resources that they need to be an advisor. Ramin?
Kudos to all of you for working on this. Great work. Thank you for doing it. I think we definitely have needed this for a long time, but better late than never, right? I guess my question would be, and this may already have been thought of, so just apologize in advance if it has been thought of already. But we usually appreciate some self-assessment elements, meaning, okay, you wanted me to learn something, then how do I know that I learned it? And I think we like that with our students, and I think it's good for all of us who, especially if you are first being hired to do this kind of work, or you are a professor and now you're going to do this type of work. How do I know I have the tools in my tool bag that I need to help students? So maybe you can talk about that. Maybe there are elements already embedded in it where people could get checked off that, yeah, you figured out how to use DegreeWorks to see progress towards degree for your advisee, so that if you're making a recommendation, it actually fits well with what the progress is the person made already.
I'm so glad. And you and Zoe are right on point with that, because Zoe just put that same question in the chat. So we have been working on some assessment pieces and building them into each one of the modules. So we haven't fully developed exactly how far we wanted to go into that assessment, and whether each college was going to have all advisors are going to be added to the training. And like you said, instead of just informational looking through and checking the boxes, we will have some checkpoints of saying this is the information that you should know and giving a quick assessment on it. So we're in the process of that. We weren't sure how far faculty or professional advisors wanted to go down into each one of those assessments, but definitely something that we're looking at. And we'll continue to work with the associate deans to make sure that those are good, and we can monitor and mark if an advisor does have all of that information. So for sure. Any other initial thoughts? Like I said, this is we just chose the 20-minute presentation to briefly throw it out there, get the seed planted of where we're heading with this, and then start to gather the feedback and really make it what it's worth. So any other initial thoughts?
Grace also put a question in. Thank you for putting this together. I'm looking forward to looking around. Is there information on the Office of Dean of Students, out of class notices, medical leave, et cetera, basic needs, and offering? If not, what can I help with? Grace, right now, we don't have anything directly about the Dean of Students in there currently. But that's exactly some of the purpose of, this session is for us to gather information, perhaps from advisors of, what do advisors most want to know or feel they're lacking information, but also to collect from our other campus partners. Where do you commonly see referrals to from advisors? What are maybe the most common misconceptions as well? And then we can continue to work and develop that and put that in here also. So that's certainly something that can be built in there.
Thank you. What else do we have? Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Allison.
Along the lines of, referring students to the Dean of Students, do you have, how there's other things that come up that need to be referred to other offices, like financial aid, for example? Is there a section that, handles that, or is all that information in there too?
I'm gonna, David or Andrew, I wasn't sure who worked on that piece. I don't know if there's a direct, right along the lines of the Dean of Students. Andrew?
Yeah, well, other than the really registrar's office, we don't have anything specifically built for other offices, but that doesn't mean those things can't be added. And I think like tutoring services and other financial aid, of course, I think those will be things that at various points will be embedded, but it might not be its own module. And some of these things too, I think would overlap with other parts, like in Starfish too, some things that would naturally just be described within, that content area, or even like advising skills. I think as I go through the toolkit there, I have to go through and make sure, but there could be a link out to like tutoring services. So I think definitely as we continue to develop, it just then becomes, is this the hub of how many other links do we want to add? And it could be endless. So not to say that any resources isn't valuable, but we want to think, okay, what makes sense to put in the actual advising course that other information could be, disseminated elsewhere. But I think, that's definitely a great example to bring up.
We do have in our advising at Oswego module right now, this is probably the closest thing to that. We do link to the college catalog, university standards and policies, right? Just in terms of top line official information. So if an advisor struggles to find that, they can click directly into there. But again, as Andrew said, and as we mentioned as well, this is, we can build really anything we want into this, but I think the caution is information overload, and also, is this the place to be of reference for all advisors, or are there better places to share those things as well? So making sure we're acknowledging what is the purpose of this. Is this just a compilation of all information, or is this more so the training to understand the basics and functions of advising?
Michelle put a good point in there as far as want to be careful about update information in a bunch of different places. Ramin was very much on board with that early on in my career when I was working with him, and only editing one spot instead of having the information in multiple spots. So Ramin, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I as it's great to come to these things and listen to other people's concerns, and that just kind of cultivates thinking through other things. So for example, I think about situational advising. The student has not registered for the following semester. What is my responsibility in that context? And that may very well be something that I may have to come back to. It's coming back to what Andrew and David were asking about. This is for training, but there are times where if I know it's here, 3-4 bullets on perhaps best practice on what your role and responsibility is, then I can come back to it and kind of refresh myself if I haven't had to deal with it for 6 months, right? I mean, it was at some point I dealt with it, and now a bunch of months have gone by, and I don't quite remember what am I supposed to do. Obviously, our goal institutionally with not registered students is to help them get the help they need and go to the right resources to register for the following semester. We want them all registered if they are eligible for registration. But do all advisors are aware of, their role in that context? So sometimes you want to have it as part of the training that, this is going to happen. You're going to have 5% of the students not registered for the following semester. What should we do about it? And I think it's good to have the ability to come back, log right back in and check it.
Absolutely. You bring a great point up as far as continuing professional development. So I believe it was Alicia King who brought this to our attention, putting notifications, announcements of new changes, so that if you've already gone through the course, you can simply check at the very top of the course if something new is coming down the line. So it's kind of a reciprocal of all the things coming down the pipeline, like the financial aid requirements, academic standing updates. These are just a few things that we've been talking about lately within the advising world. And where do you go to get the most up-to-date information? This training course would be somewhere where we can add announcements and updates as we go through. So continuing to go back in, not just taking it one time, walking away from it, but having it there as a resource for an advisor to go back through.
Speaking of announcements, in a typical course, students get emails when I send an announcement out. I imagine it may work the same with these too.
I believe so. Yeah, they set it up where we are individually going to be adding all of the advisors into the course. So I imagine it would be the same for this one as well. So that would be perfect.
Yeah, gives us another way of communicating with advisors if needed, and it's not just in their email. They can come back in the course and see it again, which is helpful sometimes.
Perfect. Yep. So David put a link down there for feedback. It's just a really quick, what else do you think should be added in there? As much feedback as possible. We would really appreciate it. Like I said, we want to make this as robust as possible. I see a lot of our extended learning folks in here, working with those online non-traditional students. You guys do this for a living. So, having your feedback, and I'll be to your meeting soon. So we can talk about it further, but across the board, all of those offices, however we can put that information in there to get that out to advisors is super helpful. Mallory, I saw your stuff about the internship advising. That is exactly the stuff that we need to get into advisors' hands. And then identifying which advisor is best suited to help those students with that information. So. Any last minute questions? I want to be mindful of time because I know there's other awesome CELT presentations happening. So I wanted to one last sweep of the questions. All right. Please click on that link and give us some feedback. We'll continue to work on this and we'll continue to throw it out for more feedback. But thank you guys so much for taking a brief viewing of this. So thank you. Have a good one.